They called it the season of culling. On the outer fringes of the Orion Spur, where once human colonies crumbled under cosmic silence, the Galactic Empire hosted its most exclusive spectacle, the hunt, not for sport in any primitive sense, but as a tradition, ceremonial, grotesquely elegant. The elite gathered with lacquered armor and genetically tuned vision, stalking through artificial forests and irradiated wastelands to pursue the ultimate prey, Homo sapiens. 80 years had passed since first contact. Humanity's brief flare into interstellar relevance had ended in fire and archive deletion. Declared a nuisance species, humans became the currency of a cruel aristocracy. On auction blocks and behind glass, they were examined for bone density, neurological anomalies, reflex thresholds. The Empire's ruling houses coveted the challenge, not of war, but of dominance without resistance. A crimson-skinned Denari lord adjusted his monocle as he surveyed the ruined city of Rallos Prime, a former human refuge now stripped of atmosphere and morale. Drones released a cluster of runners, capture humans from breeding pens, and the hunt began anew. Plasma hounds, bred for Sempion Spectrum, took off through the twisted husks of towers. In the crumbled skeleton of a church, a human girl no older than 16 clutched her younger brother. She had no name anymore. The Empire took that too. Her breath came shallow, eyes darting to the flickering sky. One hunter's targeting beam passed over the rubble, pausing for a fraction too long. The beam never moved again. From a kilometer away, concealed beneath a fractured magnetic rail line, a figure adjusted his scope. Windless and without hurry, he exhaled and fired again. Another hunter fell, elegant robes crumpling beneath him. The rest hesitated. This wasn't in the script. Imperial sensors scanned the sector. Nothing. No heat bloom, no weapon discharge. Just a drop in heartbeat count. Panic whispered through comms. The girl looked up. Where once a hunter had loomed, now there was only silence, and a mark seared into the wall behind her, a circle split by a single horizontal slash. Far above the planet, aboard the observation vessel Mercy's Fist, Archhuntmaster Kellis stared at the casualty reports. 2 kills. Clean, precise, simultaneous. Not the work of locals. Not even a bomb or guerrilla ambush. Just disappearance. No sign of struggle. No trophy left behind. He leaned forward, clawed hands steepled beneath his chin. Pattern matches those fringe incidents in the Trillian Expanse, said his aide, an augmented avar with glass thread and neural implants. Hunt parties eliminated. Minimal disruption. Kill marks left behind. Same symbol. The ghost, Kellis muttered, disdain lacing the title. An insect grows bold in the shadows. Perhaps a holdout from the Silex campaign, a surviving human operative. The aide offered. Kellis rose, spine unfolding to its full, armored height. No, not an operative. An animal, but one that's tasted blood. They evolve when cornered. Elsewhere, the figure moved through vacuum, his ship smaller than a cargo pod, painted to reflect starlight, radiation dampened. Arlland Voss, last of the Special Recon Division, once part of humanity's last defense, now a myth used to frighten Empire cadets. He had no homeland left, no chain of command. Only the mission. The hunt had once been theirs. Now it was his. Voss tapped the display, an old model, patched together from scavenged parts. Images flickered to life. Surveillance footage, hunt schedules, noble kill trophies, manifest logs of captured humans. His eyes, steel gray and sleepless, stopped on one manifest. A name. 2 children transferred to Rallos Prime, scheduled for the culling season. They made it. He'd seen the girl. One file deeper in the list froze the muscles of his jaw. House Veneris. The same crest that had commanded the orbital fire on Vega 9. The colony he had failed to save. His wife had been there. So had their unborn child. He closed the file. In a clearing near the edge of Rallos' urban wreckage, Lord Tarn Veneris examined the remains of his cousin, rifle still warm beside him. Tarn snarled. Not a predator's death. Not even a duel. Just gone. Erased. He raised his wrist. Deploy seekers. Scan for anomalous tremors, air disturbances, dust displacements. If it breathes, I want it tagged. But the figure was already gone, as if the planet itself rejected his trace. The circle and slash remained. Days later, whispers moved like current through the Empire's communication nets. A sniper, one hunter muttered in a bar on Zarna Station. He took out 3 nobles during a gala hunt. Never saw him. 1 bullet, 3 heads. Human? Can't be. I know what I saw. Others dismissed it. Myth. Psychological projection. Some even blamed internal feuds among noble houses. But beneath the bravado, fear curdled. Hunts were canceled. Quotas reduced. It was unthinkable. But somehow the prey was fighting back. Voss drifted in low orbit, watching the feeds. He didn't smile. He never did. But when the girl's transmission was intercepted, her telling a static-ridden tale of savior and shadow, he leaned forward and listened. Her voice, cracked and terrified, held something he thought long dead. Hope. Not for himself. He was beyond that. But for others. For the hunted. He adjusted the sniper's harness around his chest and selected the next planet. Another preserved world. Another noble hunt scheduled. He'd be there. Let them come. Let them hunt. He was waiting. They once called Arlland Voss a ghost, but that was before the Empire gave him reason to become one. On Vega 9, he had been a soldier, special recon, outfitted with the best Terran tech, trained in atmospheric insertion, stealth assaults, and long-range termination. He had been good. Good enough to make it back alive from the Silex campaign, when most of his unit was vaporized in orbital fire. He'd been good enough to walk his wife down the last aisle of the crumbling colony chapel, even while evacuation shuttles roared overhead, and the Empire's final warning broadcasts blared across the sky. But not good enough to stop what came next. When Vega 9 fell, it wasn't a planetary invasion or siege. It was an extermination exercise. The nobles of House Veneris declared open hunt, grounded all transport, unleashed hound squads and air-burst nanodrones. The skies glowed with kill beacons. Arlland had seen it all from a ridge overlooking the main dome. His wife had been inside. She'd begged him to run. Instead, he had watched the light of that city vanish beneath the ripple of thermal lenses. That was the last time he allowed anything to live after pointing a rifle at it. In the present, he lay prone beneath a thicket of blue-leaf shrapnel bush, 900 meters above a hunting convoy making its way to the volcanic passes of Delca Ridge. The Imperial nobles laughed in filtered tones, riding hover sleds and tossing stimulants to their genetically warped tracker beasts. 10 humans had been released at dawn. None were expected to live past nightfall. His scope danced between targets, cataloging heat signatures, armor gaps, movement patterns. One noble paused to drink from a silver flask and adjust his ceremonial cloak, standing in perfect profile. Arlland exhaled. The shot was silent. The noble's head snapped sideways, half of it gone before the others realized they were under fire. Panic bloomed like an infection. Screams. Orders. Beasts unleashed in random directions. Another shot, this one cutting through a pilot as she turned her sled into retreat. Arlland rolled down behind cover and vanished through a crevice trail he'd mapped 2 days prior. He had marked the high ground. He always did. By the time the rescue skiffs arrived, only ashes and animal corpses remained. 9 nobles dead. No survivors from their escort team. On a canyon wall scorched by gunfire, the mark was left again, circle and slash, burned into stone with ion paint. They were starting to fear it. He could see it in the comm logs, the encrypted chatter that trickled down from noble houses to local enforcement stations. Hunting worlds now rotated routes irregularly. Noble teams began employing decoys and diversions. Some even petitioned to cancel the sport outright. But the Empire never canceled anything unless it served its image. That's why they sent the Killmasters next. The first one came with high-altitude strike gear and auto-targeting drones, boasting a bounty collar that lit up with each claimed life. Voss watched him for a day before shorting the collar's shield charge with a silent round from 2 kilometers away. The resulting discharge cooked the Killmaster's nerves through his jaw. The second never even saw him. The third? That one lasted longer. She was smart, precise, used heat baffles and mirrored optics. They danced across 3 moons before Voss finally caught her adjusting her orientation antenna in a reflection. One round. One mistake. He was getting famous. Too famous. He never used names. Never replied to the encrypted signals sent by rebel cells or sympathetic traders. But they still sent messages. Thank you notes. Requests. Reports of missing people. One came from a child, badly formatted, half-corrupted. It simply said, "He took my father. Please, sniper, make him afraid." Voss read it twice, then archived it. His war wasn't about vengeance anymore. It was ritual. Every shot was a measure of justice in a galaxy that no longer believed in balance. He didn't need praise. He needed results. But someone was watching back. In the Citadel world of Calus Prime, deep within the central spiral, a being sat in a chamber of obsidian and holograms. Zero Thorne was not a noble, nor a soldier. He was bred, designed, a synthetic hybrid of 3 predator species, and laced with neural alloy harvested from combat AI. Eyes that bent spectrum, blood that cooled under fire, bones lined with fiber steel. Where others hunted humans, Thorne hunted hunters. Now he had a new contract. Not a kill, a collection. "We don't want him dead," the Imperial liaison had said. "We want him displayed. Publicly. Remind the lower species what happens to defiance." Thorne never responded to mission briefs. He simply accepted the terms and began his pattern analysis. The symbol was a key, recurring, predictable in its placement. Voss, for all his stealth, had a rhythm. A rhythm could be broken. On a dusk-lit world called Athari, Voss found a staging ground for another culling event. He scouted the perimeter, checked air flows, triangulated the hills. But something fell off. The security drones were clumsier than usual. The guards slower to respond. The perimeter, porous by design, had been reinforced. He hesitated, then saw the children. 4 of them, corralled into the open plains like bait. He moved anyway. The shot dropped 2 of the overseers instantly. The rest scattered, just as expected. He slipped through the southern ridgeline and intercepted the youngest, maybe 9 years old, lifting the boy into his arm and whispering for silence. Then he felt it. Not sound, not motion, just presence. By the time the 3rd child was within reach, the air shifted. A pulse of soundless static rippled across the grass. Voss spun, but too late. A blade passed through where his leg had been a half-second earlier. Cleaving air with molecular precision, Voss fired blindly, retreating, dragging the children with him. No impact, no blood, just empty space. Thorne didn't chase. He watched, memorizing gait, speed, prioritization of rescue over retreat. Later, in his own dark chamber, Thorne whispered the name for the first time. Voss! And smiled. The hunter had become prey, but prey could still bite. Word spread like infection through the outer colonies. The sniper was real. A human, once hunted, now predator. Arlland Voss had become more than a name. He was a reckoning. On mining platforms orbiting broken moons, children carved his mark into bulkhead walls. Rebel cells passed his kill logs through encoded data ghosts, broadcasting them into Imperial communication webs like blasphemous prayers. The nobility dismissed it at first, isolated anomalies, inflated by desperation. But even they could not ignore the mounting death toll. Hunts were being aborted. Noble heirs vanished mid-pursuit. In one infamous incident, a veteran hunter's head was found inside his own trophy satchel, the circle and/mark scorched onto his skull. The Reclaimers, a loose network of surviving human smugglers and rogue AI, had no official leadership, but they didn't need one. Voss's message was enough. He didn't speak. He never responded. But the meaning was clear. The age of hunted silence was over. In the ruins of an old cargo port on Mordex, a band of human rebels gathered around a broken hollow table. Static danced over its surface as a transmission clicked into place. Grainy, silent, it showed an Imperial noble inspecting a captured human boy. Then, a flash. A single frame of red mist. The noble dropped, lifeless, eyes wide. The feed cut out. "He's like clockwork," whispered Yell, a former tech runner turned rebel quartermaster. Every noble world, every hunt, leaves nothing but ghosts in his mark. "He's pushing too hard," said Jordan, grizzled and skeptical. "Empire's tightening its grip. They just sanctioned the burn of a Lith Prime. Thousands. They think he's hiding there. Maybe he was," Yell replied, softer. "Maybe he left a message." They all turned as the table flickered again. This time, a still image, the symbol etched into scorched stone beneath the remains of an Imperial flag. And beneath it one word, typed in standard: soon. The Empire responded as it always did, with fire, orbital bombardments, shock troopers, loyalty sweeps. Colonies with even whispers of resistance were razed or silenced. But for every act of retaliation, another noble disappeared. Another hunt ended in silence. And yet, Arlland Voss remained unseen, until Thorne. Where others hunted with arrogance, Zero Thorne studied. He tracked patterns, listened for discrepancies in silence. He had started to predict Voss, not perfectly, but close. On 3 worlds, he arrived within hours of the sniper strikes. On the 4th, he caught his scent. Voss had left behind a casing fragment, its molecular surface warped, not by heat but time. Thorne ran simulations for a full day, watching Voss's breathing rate, bullet drift, elevation paths. He saw mind there, not chaos, not rage, precision, ritual. Thorne knew what Voss was becoming. Not a man, but an idea. And ideas had gravity. On the jungle moon of Sealavarn, Thorne prepared the trap. The Empire had chosen it for the next legacy hunt, a high-tier event designed to showcase their dominance. 75 captured humans would be released into the wilds. All nobility invited. Spectatorships would stream the event across 10 systems. Thorne let it all proceed. He even ensured the schedule leaked into reclaimer networks, because Voss would come. And he did. The first shot came an hour into the hunt. A clean kill. Noble down. A broadcast drone caught a glimpse, just a blur in the tree canopy, and then static. The second kill followed moments later. A hover sled detonated by an unseen explosive. Thorne watched from a secure perch built into the cliffside. He did not move, did not speak. His compound eyes flicked in near-silent analysis, parsing every vibration, every shadow. His lips curled into something not quite a smile. Voss was near. Thorne could feel it. And yet, the sniper remained invisible. Voss had been tracking the nobles for 2 days before the event began. He knew Thorne would be there. He had expected it. The last encounter had made that clear. Thorne had nearly taken his leg. Now the game had changed. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about momentum, about belief. Voss's kills weren't just eliminations. They were symbols. He understood now that every noble he dropped was a hammer strike against the Empire's myth of invincibility. He moved like a whisper through the canopy, bypassing drones, marking trooper patrols. He made note of every high-heat emitter, every sound buffer, every potential exit vector. But still, there was something wrong. The spacing was too perfect. The kill zones too clear. He paused above a gnarled root line and scanned the trees. Then he saw it. No birds. Not one. His eye twitched behind the scope. He fired anyway, into empty air. The bolt struck metal, igniting a ripple of sparks and shredding a concealed decoy unit. The jungle lit up with automated gunfire. Projectiles tore through the canopy. Voss dropped backward, rolling down a slope as his cloak engaged adaptive camouflage. Thorne didn't flinch. His trap was sprung. He activated the perimeter nodes. 40 plasma drones locked into a containment grid, cutting off Voss's escape routes. But the sniper wasn't retreating. He was advancing. Smoke grenades erupted in key drone pathways, confusing thermal sensors. A dead noble's body, rigged with an old rebel transponder, caused a misfire loop in the drone AI. Chaos bloomed brief but enough. Voss made it to the central ridge. And there, waiting, was Thorne. No words passed between them, only movement. Thorne charged, blade arcing like silver flame. Voss ducked under, sidearm barking twice. One shot deflected, one grazing Thorne's shoulder. They circled, predator against predator, blood against silence. Then Voss vanished, a trick of the terrain. mirrored foliage, electromagnetic haze, cloaking weave. When Thorne turned to adjust, the shot came from above. It tore through the edge of his armor, sending him to one knee. But Voss didn't finish him. Instead, he stepped forward, a silhouette in the smoke. "Tell them," he said. Thorne's eyes narrowed. "You had your chance." Voss backed away, already disappearing again. "No, I gave you one." And then he was gone. The event ended in disaster. 15 nobles dead, spectator feeds corrupted, the jungle sterilized in a desperate orbital strike. The sniper lived, and his name now traveled farther than any bullet. Next would be the capital. They just didn't know it yet. In the heart of the Empire, where sunlight never touched the ground and towers split the clouds like obsidian blades. Fear had taken root. It wore no armor, bore no insignia, and carried no banner. It was a name, whispered even among the elite. Voss. The Senate chambers on Calus Prime echoed with arguments, each voice raised in panic. Nobles once smug and untouchable now spoke in clipped tones, paranoia bleeding into policy. The sniper had struck again, on Andrel's moon this time, killing not only nobles but dismantling an entire data relay meant to track fugitive colonies. The attack had taken 18 seconds. Not a trace of his presence remained, save for the mark. The Emperor did not speak. He had not in weeks. Instead, his proxy, a siphon-blooded bureaucrat named Verikmal, delivered orders through layers of encryption and terror. His latest decree was final. Voss was to be captured alive. Not for trial, not for execution, but for public undoing. A myth unraveled before trillions. Thorne, now cloaked in fresh wounds and failure, was summoned once more. "You had him," Varric said, voice filtered through a synthesized amplifier. "You saw him." "I studied him," Thorne replied, unshaken. "He let me live." "Then why are you still breathing?" Thorne tilted his head. "Because he wanted a witness. That makes him predictable. The next move is here. He's bringing this home." Varric scoffed. He wouldn't dare. But he did. Voss entered Calus Prime not by stealth, but by storm. A satellite station collapsed first. An old relay rig turned surveillance post. It imploded in broad daylight, sending debris into orbit and disrupting 3 system-wide feeds. Next came the power disruptions in Tier 4, the slave quarters. Entire blocks went dark. One by one, surveillance eyes blinked out. And then, in the square beneath the monument of subjugation, a statue crumbled. It didn't fall from age or accident. It was cut precisely at the joints, with shaped charges placed so delicately the building next to it never trembled. The mark was there, again, circle, slash, burned into the plinth. Calus trembled. Reclaimer forces were nowhere near strong enough to launch an invasion. They had no fleets, no orbital command, no true army. But they had Voss. And Voss had turned their fear into fire. Thorne set his trap again. This time, it was the Senate chamber itself. Reinforced, airtight, walls layered with anti-optics and smart metal skin. Snipers of his own watched from spires. He waited inside, not as bait, but as the final blade. He would not underestimate the sniper twice. But Voss never entered the chamber. Instead, at exactly 0300 Galactic Standard, every external feed in the core systems went dark for 7 seconds. When they returned, the image was still. The Emperor's personal suite, empty. The Emperor himself, gone. No blood, no sign of struggle. Only the mark, not painted, etched into the very throne. No one had seen Voss enter. No one saw him leave. Verikmal, once smug, now barely held composure. "We must retaliate," he barked, voice trembling. "We burn their worlds. We show them." "They already know," Thorne interrupted. "That's the problem." The myth had overtaken the man. Voss had transcended the laws of war. He had become a symbol etched in fire. Wherever he struck, tyrants fell silent and rebels rose from the dust. Not because he ordered them, but because belief, once seated, could not be buried. Thorne stood alone at the edge of Calta's highest spire, wind howling against his armor. He no longer questioned Voss's aim. It was never about one kill or even one world. It was about breaking the narrative, about reversing the lens, forcing the Empire to see itself not as the apex, but the beast in the crosshairs. And yet Thorne remained, because he, too, had changed. The hunter who once chased for glory now hunted for understanding. "Why didn't you kill me?" he asked the void. "You had the chance." A whisper on the wind. Not words, not sound, but understanding. Because some things weren't meant to end in blood. Later, in a hidden outpost deep beneath Calthus surface, once used to imprison dissidents, walls now echoed with voices. Human voices. Reclaimer agents walked openly, planning, coordinating. The Empire had not collapsed. Not yet. But it had cracked. And in the control room, lit only by red backup lights, a silhouette watched old footage loop. Voss, standing atop a hill on Vega 9, rifle across his back, his wife beside him. She was smiling. He replayed it once. Then again, behind him, a child's voice called out. A reclaimer orphan saved from the jungles of Silavarn. "Is it true you're him?" Voss didn't answer. He simply turned off the screen. Some myths didn't need confirmation. They lived longer when left undefined. Outside, the stars shifted. War would come. Battles would be fought. But the age of the hunted was over. Now, the hunt belonged to humanity.